Yo, what's going on, everybody? In today's video, I'm going to be bringing to you my predictions on Team Affinity 5, which they just announced is definitely going to be the finest as we all expected. So SES confirmed it in their live stream today, and we'll take a look at every team and give you my predictions, all right? But before we get into it, make sure you hit the subscribe button if you haven't already. Turn your notifications on. Leave a like on the video. And in the comment section, I want you to tell me who you think is going to be the finest for each team. And tell me what you think about my predictions. And tell me if I missed out on anybody, all right? So also, make sure you give me a follow on Twitch, Twitter, and TikTok. All three links will be in the description below. So give me a follow on 3 platforms. I highly appreciate if you would, all right? But without further ado, let's look at these. Let's get into these Team Affinity predictions. All right, so we'll start off with the NL East. We'll just go in order from left to right, and then down to the NL East left to right as well. So AL East, I'm going to take a look at my little notes. I made some notes, looked at every team, and go from there. So the Yankees, we'll start off with the Yankees. I'm going to do 2 predictions per team, except for one team. There's one team that I just couldn't find a second prediction for. So I got Garrett Cole as my main number 1 guy. And then the number 2 guy is going to be Aaron Judge. The reason being, Cole hasn't gotten a 99 overall card yet. Just thinking that he fits perfectly for that finest card for him. However, obviously Judge had a really good season, but also Judge did get the Team Affinity 3 card, All-Star card. So I don't know if they repeat on that end when they have another outlet to give it to somebody else. All right, so for the Red Sox, I got Alex Verdugo as my guy, or as my number 1 guy, and then the number 2 guy, I got Garrett Whitlock. Verdugo hasn't gotten a high overall card. All the other cards on that team, except for JD Martinez, have pretty much gotten a high overall card. You know, Bogarts has the All-Star card. Devers just got this postseason card. Kike got one. You know, obviously Chris Sale has a 99 overall card. Nate Eovaldi got a postseason card. So a lot of those guys have, you know, a good card. And for the finest, I think Verdugo is the guy. He has not gotten a 99 high overall card yet. So now moving on to the Orioles. For the Orioles, obviously Cedric Mullins should be the guy. He had the best season for the Orioles, 30-30 season, 294 average, you know. Really good all around, great defense, stuff like that. However, you know, it is a possibility they go back to him, but he did get the TA3, so he has a 98 overall already in the game. I don't know how much different it can look. Maybe he gets a bit more power. He already has really good contact, so maybe he can get more power over 100 versus both instead of just over 100 versus right. But then again, I don't know if they go back to him. With that being said, I think the number 1 guy is John Means. He had a good season for them pitching-wise, their best pitcher by far. And then the number 2 guy is going to be Ryan Mountcastle. You know, a guy that had 33 bombs in the year, 260 average, 260 plus average. You know, really good season. And his highest overall card is, I think, a tops now of 94 overall, so they can easily give him that 99. So for Tampa Bay, you got, I think, this one was a tough one to go between because both of them had good seasons for them. But I think they give the edge to the hitter. It's going to be Brandon Lowe, 247 average, but he hit 39 bombs as a second baseman. Good defense, you know. So I think he gets that call, especially with the fact that he never got a tops card after he hit those 3 bombs in one game and didn't get his 99 overall card for that. But I do think Colin McHugh is definitely viable as well. Had a very, very elite season as a reliever. So I think he can also be Tampa Bay's finest. You got Toronto. These two were tough in my opinion. And honestly, they can end up both getting a finest, okay? Remember, they don't only just stick to giving finest to the Team Affinity. They also do their own finest pack that gives finest cards. I think Bo Bichette is the lock, though. Is the guy for Team Affinity 5, and the reason being he doesn't have anything higher than the 88 overall 42 series. He had a really great season. He basically hit 300 at 298, and he also hit 29 bombs. So that's a really good season for a shortstop. I think he's the lock. But obviously, Marcus Simeon is another guy that can get it. His highest overall is that Player of the Month. That's 96, so you can move up to that 99, especially being the fact he played elite defense and he broke the record for most bombs for a second baseman. And then obviously, I said I only did 2 guys. We got to talk about Vladdy. You know, Hank Aaron Award winner, best offensive season besides Bryce Harper this year. I mean, he already has his 99 overall. That's why I didn't have him as the finest, but I don't know. I mean, the only thing you can really do to that card, obviously at P5, he gets 125 power in contact versus righties, and then against lefties, the only thing you could do is bump up his contact and power against lefties, and maybe get him to the point where he can get 125 across the board, and we'll reward him for how good of a season he had. But I just don't see him being the finest since he already has that All-Star card at 99 overall. So next, we're going to go over to the AL Central. And in the AL Central, start off with Cleveland. And Cleveland, I think the lock for sure is Emmanuel Clase. He had an elite season, especially August. He had a great August, was named AL Reliever of the Month. He did not receive a Player of the Month card for that month. And so I think he gets the nod. I think that's the reason why they didn't give it to him. I think he gets the nod as the Cleveland Indians' finest card. And then also you have Jose Ramirez is my number 2 guy. But he already got a 98 overall with TA3. So I don't know how inclined they are to give him another card. That's why Class A is a lock for me. And plus Class A had the better season overall. White Sox, this was kind of a tough one because the hitters, you already have the guys that had their best seasons with high overall cards, like Robert, Grandal, Abreu, and Tim Anderson. Eloy has a Silver Slugger card. I don't think he did any better than what he did for a Silver Slugger card. So I went with Dylan Cease, or that's my guy that I'm going as the number 1 pick. And then obviously Liam Hendrix can also get one due to the fact that he had an elite season as a reliever. But he already has that All-Star card, and Cease has a tops now, but it's not super high overall, and he had a good season. The other guys that obviously I'm going to talk about the pitchers too. Lance Lynn has his All-Star card. I don't know how much better you can get with, giving him another card. It already has 115 hit per 9 to start off with. Lucas Giolito has his no-hitter. Rodon has the TA3 card. I mean, like I said, maybe Michael Kopech. You can give it to Michael Kopech, maybe. I don't know. He had a good season as reliever. I think Dylan Cease is the guy, to be honest. So moving on to the Tigers, I think the guy they're going to go with is Jonathan Scope. He did get a Player of the Month card, but it was a lower 90 overall card, so he can get the 99 overall. He definitely had, in my opinion, the best season as a hitter. He had over 20 bombs, almost a 280 average, good slugging, and especially for that team, they didn't have really great hitters besides, I think Candelario was the second best hitter on that team. Scope did do better than him. For the second person, though, I think Casey Mize is a viable option for sure. He did pretty good. Best pitcher on the rotation for sure. I think Casey Mize could possibly also get it. For the Royals, now I'm breaking my code. I stick by that SES may not give them another card because they received TA3. However, sometimes that just doesn't work out because of how good of a season somebody has. And when it comes to the Royals, obviously Salvador Perez, I think, can get the card. He has 97 overalls, is 2 of them. So he doesn't have a 99 technically. And I mean, it's like, how do you not give that guy a finest card after he broke the record for most home runs by a catcher? The dude hit 48 bombs and almost hit 280 on the season. Like, I just don't see how he can't get the card. But the second option would probably be Nikki Lopez. He had a pretty good season at shortstop, playing second and shortstop, fluctuated between both positions. So, but again, Salvi, he had way too good of a season, especially as a catcher, to not get it. So for the Twins, they weren't very good this year. There's 2 guys. I think, even though he only played 61 games, okay, so he didn't even play half a season, I think Byron Buxton should get the finest, and that's due to the fact that he got Player of the Month very early in April. That was a 95 overall, and they had to absolutely tank those attributes to make sure that he wasn't any better than a 95 overall, because obviously they like to build up. That card, if he had the same type of month later in the year, like from July on, it could have probably reached, it would have been over 115 across the board for sure. Honestly, the potential of having 125 across the board, because that's how good he did in April. So I think to make up for it, they're going to give him the finest, even though he only played 61 games. But I think Jorge Polanco also could get it. He had a pretty good year. Especially, he just turned it on power-wise. Ended up with 33 bombs as a middle infielder. That's very good. And he does have a tops now with a higher overall, but it's not a 99 overall. So Polanco could get it as well. But I think they know that we love Buxton as a community. In order to make up for having to give him lower attributes at the beginning of the year, I think they give it to him even though he had 61 games played only. For Oakland, now I think the guy they're gonna go with is Chris Bassett. He had a really good season as a starter. But there's also the option of Starling Marte. The only problem is I don't know how inclined they'll be to give it to Starling Marte because of the fact that he didn't start off the season with them, and he was there only after the trade deadline. So, but obviously Marte did have a good year, and he is deserving of a finest card, but like I said, due to the fact he wasn't there the whole year, I don't know how inclined they are to give it to him. So for the Angels, I think the guy is going to be Raisel Iglesias. He's the one that stood out from that roster. Very good season as a closer. The main guys as their hitters were hurt most of the year, so Rendon's not going to get it, stuff like that. The only other guy I can see is Fletcher. He had a decent season, but doesn't match up to the type of season that Raisel had as a pitcher, so I think Raisel gets it. So over to the Rangers. Obviously, the Rangers didn't have a great year, but they have a couple guys that you can definitely push for finest. Like, they didn't have a terrible season. First one, I think the guy that's going to be is Kiner Falefa. Decent, pretty good year. Plays multiple positions, so why not? But I think Nate Lowe is also a very viable option. He had a decent season, so definitely viable for the Rangers. Obviously, for the Rangers, those two guys were probably the best statistically. Yes, Adolis had a good season, but he already had TA3, so that's also a reason why I didn't pick Adolis. So for the Astros, I think these two guys. My main pick is going to be Carlos Correa, and that's a couple things. It's probably going to be his last season with the Astros, and honestly, he did have a really good year. Defensively, elite, and offensively was elite for a shortstop, so very viable. But Kyle Tucker is also very viable. He had 294, 30 bombs, good slug, good OPS. I mean, stole some bags too, great defense as well. Be a 5-tool player, but I think Correa gets the nod over him. So for the Mariners, obviously Mitch Haniger would probably be the best pick. However, he did get TA3 for him. So yeah, I know I said Salvador. It broke my code with Salvador, but we already talked about why Salvador should get the nod for the Royals. I think JP Crawford gets it. I think that's the guy that gets it. And then number 2, I don't really have a great number 2 option, but a dark horse is probably Kyle Seeger, just because obviously the history he had with the Mariners and the fact that he's not coming back. And also, he's a Silver Slugger finalist, so he did pretty good. That's my second pick, and that's a dark horse, obviously. JP Crawford is a guy that I think is going to get it, though. So for the Phillies, Bryce Harper should be a candidate. However, obviously he has his MVP card from when he was with the Nationals, so I don't know if he can get a finest for the Phillies. He may get a finest just because he's going to probably win MVP and they give it to him in the choice pack, or maybe even part of the new collection. Who knows? However, I think for the Phillies, it's going to be Zach Wheeler. Wheeler, Cy Young finalist, possibly Cy Young winner. We'll see. Had an elite season. He does have a Player of the Month card, but it's not a 99 overall. It's not going to match up to what the finest would be. And then as a second option, it would be Gene Segura. He had a pretty good season, but nowhere near what Wheeler did, so I think Wheeler is by far the pick. For the Marlins, I think the number 1 option by far is Sandy Alcantara. He was the Marlins ace. I am a Marlins fan, so that's why I say he was our ace, and he had a great season. I mean, elite season. Elite's kind of pushing it, but very good year. I'm going to say he had a great year as a starter for sure, and he would be a great guy to have. Then the second guy would probably be Jesus Aguilar. Pretty good year for the Marlins, but doesn't match up to Sandy, so obviously Sandy Alcantara is the guy. For the Mets, I think the guy is going to be Stroman. He had a good season, and he's just a guy that he's marketable and stuff. Although, in my opinion, I think it should be Aaron Loup. Aaron Loup had an elite season. The dude had like a .57 ERA. But they haven't shown him love at all in roster upgrades. He didn't even get to a silver. He stayed as a bronze. So I just don't see them showing him love for Team Affinity 5, even though I think he should be the guy. Nationals, obviously, Juan Soto is the pick by far. One wrinkle I could see them doing, though, is maybe bringing back the Juan Soto from last year, since he was pretty much 125 across the board, and especially so I can see them bringing him back. However, he's obviously the pick for the Nationals. They can go with Josh Bell. I mean, he had a viable season, over 260, 27 bombs, good slug. So if they wanted to bring back Soto from last year, I wouldn't be mad at that, honestly. I wouldn't be mad. You still get a finest Soto that's even more cracked than what he would be this year, and you're also getting Josh Bell. So I think that would be a cool option to do, but I think they go with Soto, obviously. He's by far should get it. The Braves, I think Austin Reilly is the finest pick He does not have a high overall card. He did get player of the month, but it's not a high overall. He hasn't got a 99. He didn't get a postseason card, and he did have the best season for him. I mean, you could argue that he could have been an MVP finalist, but he's definitely going to get top 5 voting for sure. So Austin Riley, I think, is my guy for the Braves, and then the other guys, obviously, you can go with Max Fried or Freddie Freeman. Obviously, those two guys are good candidates. I think Freeman does get a card at some point somewhere, maybe an MVP card or something like that, but Austin Riley's my pick. So now you got the Brewers. By far, I think Corbin Burnes is the guy. Cy Young finalist, elite season. Best numbers for a pitcher in my opinion as a starter. You know, obviously Jacob deGrom was there, but he didn't pitch anywhere near as much as Corbin did. So Corbin is my guy. And then also you obviously have Brandon Woodruff as the another viable option. For the Cardinals, I think the main pick is going to be Goldie, especially since other guys have gotten high overalls, especially like Tyler Noe, he's at a 99, or Arenado has a 99, Edman has a 98, you know, Harrison Bader has a 98, so Goldie's the pick. He had the best offensive season too for the Cardinals. Pretty much a landslide there on the offensive numbers he put up, and so that's my pick. You can go with Waino. Honestly, you really could go with Waino as a finest pick, but Goldie's definitely the guy. Like, I just don't see how they don't go with Goldie. With the Cubs, they didn't have very good the year this year, and they traded a lot of players. So options dwindled once they traded all those guys. I think the pick is Patrick Wisdom. He has a Topps Now card, but it's like a lower 90, you know, in the lower 90s overall. Almost 250, 30 bombs almost, so decent slug and stuff. So I think, and he played enough game. He played over 100 games with the Cubs. Wisdom is definitely my pick. However, Ian Happ, in my opinion, stayed the whole season with the Cubs. He can be another one, but I mean, he received a September Player of the Month card that was pretty high overall, so I think Patrick Wisdom is probably the guy. Pirates, Brian Reynolds is my lock for the Pirates. You know, hit over 300, 24 bombs, elite defense as a center fielder, good slug, good OBP, didn't strike out much. The dude was overall all the way around. So Brian Reynolds is my lock. He got a Player of the Month card, but it was only a 95 overall. This card can be 99. It can be way better with that. You know, it gets diamond defense off rip and hitting attributes. It could be tough to make it better than what his Player of the Month card because they were pretty good, but they can definitely do something there. Next is going to be the Reds, and I think the lock is probably Jonathan India. I mean, he is Rookie of the Year finalist. He had a good season, especially as a rookie. Second baseman, you know. But I think Jesse Winker is also a viable option. Jesse does have a Player of the Month card, but it's like lower 90s overall. And he did play over 100 games, and he had a good year, so Jesse Winker is definitely an option for the Reds, but I think India ultimately gets it. For the Giants, I think it's Brandon Crawford. That's the lock. Brandon Belt already has a Topps Now, has a higher overall. Logan Webb got his players postseason. Kevin Gausman got TA3. You know what I mean? So Brandon Crawford, Buster Posey just got his finest card for the player program. So Brandon Crawford had a really good year, especially hitting and defensively. Obviously, he had really good seasons. So I think he's the guy. And then you can go with Jake McGee. Jake McGee had a good season as a closer, but I just think it's not even close with who that's going to be. I think it's Brandon Crawford. For the Rockies, I think the lock is CJ Crone. He had the best offensive year for him. And also, he should have had the August Player of the Month. I'm not going to lie. He hit 382 with over 10 bombs that month. He was NL Player of the Month. He definitely should have got the August Player of the Month, but I think they saved him to give him the finest card for the Rockies. So that's a lock for me. If they don't go with CJ Crone, then I don't know why they didn't give him the Player of the Month Lightning card in August, or even a Player of the Month card in general. Second option would probably be Brendan Rodgers. He had a pretty good season, so that's the guy. But CJ Crone is my lock for sure. So next you got the Padres. I think Tatis is the lock. I think that's who they go with. However, I could see Tatis being a part of the new collection that's coming out in some type of way. That's not a finest version, maybe a different version, like a cover boy edition or something like that. Something crazy. They do something very, very out of the normal that they've never done before. I can see them doing that with Tatis because of the hype he had around his being cover boy and stuff like that. And the season he had was elite. So I can see him being something with the collection. But it would still make sense for him to be the Padres Team Affinity card. Had by far the best season for the Padres. But if they don't go with Tatis because they use him somewhere else, I think Musgrove is probably the pick for the Padres Team Affinity Season 5. So the D-backs is the only team I could not find two options. Ketel Marte is my lock. I don't think there's anybody else. By far the best season, and overall Diamondbacks just didn't have, players didn't have good seasons. I think that tells a lot. Like, I just don't see anybody else. And last but not least, the Dodgers. I think Max Muncy is the pick. He does not have a high overall yet. So I think Muncy is definitely the pick, and he had a really good season. But obviously, Walker Buehler is an option. Buehler already has a player of the month that has a higher overall, so I don't know how much better that can get from that one to the finest. So I think Muncy is definitely the pick. Those are my predictions for TA5. The reveals start coming out on Saturday the 13th, so tomorrow. So we'll see one by one when they start releasing how accurate I was. Anyways, I hope you guys enjoy this video. Make sure you hit the subscribe button if you haven't already. Turn your notifications on. Leave a like on the video. And if you have any questions, comments, or concerns, leave them in the comment section below, and I'll try to answer them as quickly as possible. Also, make sure you give me a follow on Twitch, Twitter, and TikTok. All 3 links will be in the description below, so give me a follow on 3 platforms. I highly appreciate if you would. All right. Thank you guys for watching. I'll catch you in the next video. Love y'all. Peace.